Most people would have said that Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi was completely delusional. Others may have even said he was just plain stupid. Chasing his NFL dream had left Damon homeless and sleeping on grass outside of a gym, but he still wasn't giving up on the NFL. Damon's last shot at making the big leagues was an invite-only tryout for the Cleveland Browns. The only issue was that Damon didn't have an invite. With a plan to sneak his way into the tryout, Damon would go on to create one of the most remarkable underdog stories in NFL history. This video tells the story of the crazy ups and downs from Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi's improbable road to the NFL.
And it is Sheehy-Guiseppi feeling it inside the 15, and he gets one block and he's gone, and he is gone. Taking it the distance for the touchdown is Sheehy.
Before we jump into the video, please drop a like if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for more interesting sports documentaries just like this one. Let's go! To understand why Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi's story is so special, you need to understand what he went through while he was chasing his dreams. Long before Damon was relentlessly hunting his NFL dream like a man possessed, he instead dreamt of playing in the NBA, with basketball his original sport of choice. He played basketball throughout high school, and when he graduated, he enrolled at a junior college ready to play ball and start the long road from JUCO basketball to D1 college basketball, and finally onto the NBA. However, when Damon tried out for the basketball team at Mesa Community College, his dreams were shattered when he fell at the first hurdle and didn't make the team. Standing at 5 foot 11 inches or 6 foot tall in Tinder terms, Damon wasn't exactly built for basketball, and failing a tryout at the JUCO level made Damon realize his NBA dreams were never going to happen. So he decided to pivot and look for an alternative more suited to him. But it was a massive blow for someone as ambitious as Damon to fall at such an early stage. The kind of rejection that destroys some people but lights a fire under others. While Damon hadn't been blessed with the height of Shaquille O'Neal, he had been blessed with ridiculous speed and decided to instead focus on athletics, where he began running track for the same community college that had rejected him in basketball. Damon was lightning fast and a promising track prospect, but unfortunately, he got involved in a car accident that stopped him from running for an extended period of time. While recovering, Damon decided to quit athletics and focus solely on weight training for a while. To fail to make an impact at the junior college level in both basketball and athletics would have been really tough for Damon to swallow, but facing adversity was something that Damon relished and he refused to give up. They say third time is the charm, and Damon's third attempt to play sports saw him focus his sights on football. He transferred to Phoenix College, another junior college, and decided to try out for their football team. Those of you who have watched Last Chance U on Netflix will know that JUCO football isn't exactly the top standard of college football, or even really close to it, especially in a place like Arizona, and Damon would have been confident that someone with his speed could easily make the team. Well, if third time was the charm, then it had a funny way of showing it, because after trying out for Phoenix College, Damon didn't hear anything back from the coaches to say whether he'd made the team or not. Most of us would have probably taken that as an L, but Damon took it as they hadn't outright rejected him, so technically he hadn't not made the team. He got the team's summer workout schedule from one of the players and began turning up to work out with the team throughout the entire summer. Eventually, his performances, dedication, and athleticism impressed enough that the coaches decided he had earned a spot on the team. As Damon had never played organised football growing up, his role on the team was limited due to a lack of knowledge of the intricacies of the sport. But that didn't mean that Damon couldn't contribute at all, and he soon carved out a role as the kick and punt returner on special teams, where his job essentially amounted to catch ball, run fast. This was something he was great at, and in his first season he racked up 1,178 kickoff return yards. He did even better in his second season and led the nation with 1,278 kick return yards and 4 touchdowns. These performances made him a JUCO All-American, and after all the setbacks, things were finally starting to look good for Damon, and he'd found his sport. However, as usual, it was never completely smooth sailing in Damon's life, and he soon ran into another hurdle when his coaches refused to let him expand his role in the team and learn the position of wide receiver. They also refused to give him a full ride scholarship, meaning he was having to pay tuition despite being considered one of the best in JUCO on special teams. Damon decided he wasn't going to tolerate this disrespect, and he dropped out of Phoenix College, armed with the game film he had amassed throughout his career at Phoenix, ready to try and transfer to a Division I school and make the next step on the road to the NFL. Damon applied for, received, and then maxed out a credit card, which he used to pay for fuel to travel to some of the biggest college football teams in America and beg them to look at his film and give him a tryout. Damon was the definition of determination and grind, hitting college after college across the country. However, nearly every single team he visited refused to even look at his film, and issues regarding his eligibility meant even if they had looked at the film, it was unlikely that the NCAA would have let Damon play, because there's nothing that gets the suits at the NCAA harder than stopping someone from playing sport. The inability to transfer to a D1 school meant that Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi's college football career was effectively over, with the only action he'd ever got being at the junior college level as a return man. A college football CV this underwhelming should have meant that Damon's chances of an NFL career were completely dead and buried. But like me trying to talk to girls at the bar after a few beers, Damon didn't let the stacked odds stop him from trying anyway. With the college football door firmly closed, Damon shrugged his shoulders and decided he'd just go straight to the NFL. He tried the same tactic he'd used for the college teams by traveling around the country to beg NFL teams to watch his film, but unsurprisingly, this tactic failed and he got nowhere. NFL teams just had absolutely no interest in a guy who hadn't even made it at the college level. He had tryouts for the Canadian Football League and the Arena Football League, among others, with none of these tryouts being successful. If you were a professional team and you were hosting a tryout, there was a strong chance a wild Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi would appear, but his persistence wasn't getting him anywhere, and he faced rejection after rejection after rejection from even the lowest levels of professional football. Before long, it had been 2 years since Damon had actually last played in a game, and that was at a level miles and miles below the NFL. The only games Damon was playing were in flag football at a league in Arizona, possibly the lowest level of the sport. Despite life telling him that his dreams were impossible, Damon clung on to the belief that he just needed one big break to come his way and he would be in the NFL. In fact, he didn't even need the big break to come his way, he just needed the location, and he dragged the opportunity out of nothing if that's what it took. He just needed one chance. And eventually, his prayers were answered. The big break Damon had been desperate for arrived when a friend Damon had made from playing flag football mentioned that he had heard from a friend of another friend that the Cleveland Browns were holding an invite-only tryout in Florida. To someone with the persistence of Damon, mentioning this tryout to him was like dangling a steak in front of a starving man. He immediately began pestering his friend for more details on the date and location of the tryout, even as his friend made it clear that Damon wasn't invited. His friend eventually gave in and got the details for Damon, who immediately decided to make his way over to Florida with the last of his mum's airline reward points for one final shot at the unlikeliest of dreams. As mentioned earlier, Damon had tried the route of begging coaches in college and the NFL to look at his film, but he'd never gotten anywhere with this tactic. So he decided for his last shot at the big leagues, he'd try a different tactic to show the coaches his talent. Ahead of the tryout, Damon began researching the Cleveland Browns front office staff, and in particular, he learnt about Vice President of Player Personnel Alonzo Highsmith, with plans to pretend that he knew Alonzo and bluff his way into the invite-only tryout by pretending that Alonzo had invited him. When he arrived in North Miami, Damon put his plan into action and told the security and staff at the tryout that he'd been invited there by Alonzo Highsmith. A complete lie, but a lie that worked and got him into the tryout. He immediately went over to Alonzo Highsmith and introduced himself, and with a little bit of sweet talk, Alonzo thought, who cares, and added Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi's name to the list of tryouts for the day. If Damon turned out to be a complete bum, it wasn't exactly much of a loss. So, Damon had shown up completely uninvited to an invite-only Cleveland Browns tryout, But through sheer determination, he'd managed to bag himself the chance to impress the coaches and scouts he'd been trying to charm for the last 2 years of his life. This was an impressive achievement, but it would all be for nothing if he didn't take his chance with both hands and kill it at the tryout. First up was the legendary 40-yard dash. The coaches can teach you everything about the game, but if you're slow, you're always going to be slow. Luckily for Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi, he was definitely not slow, and he knocked it out of the park with an astonishingly fast 4.38 second 40-yard dash. I imagine this moment was like when everyone saw Happy Gilmore's monster drive for the first time. For context, a 4.38.40 would have made him the 5th fastest wide receiver at the 2019 NFL Combine. Truly elite level speed. He followed this blazing fast 40 time with a solid workout where he flashed his punt return ability and did enough to earn an invite to the next stage of tryouts in Ohio in a week's time. This unlikely success after forcing his way into the tryout put Damon on cloud 9, but he couldn't celebrate for too long because he was stuck in Miami with no money and no flight home. Damon knew his mum was struggling and he didn't want to ask her for money after she'd supported him for the last 2 years, so he stuck around in Miami, effectively homeless and sleeping outside on a patch of grass. He was eating once, maybe twice a day maximum, and he only had access to a gym because the gym staff let him keep using the gym after his guest passes had expired. Damon was days away from an NFL tryout, but was living in circumstances that most of us would have been horrified by. I have a meltdown if I get to the gym and realise I've forgotten my AirPods. I can't imagine struggling for food and a place to sleep in the lead up to the most important job interview of your entire life. It has to be an insane combination of pressure and stress, but Damon was so focused on chasing the dream that he took it all in his stride. He eventually made his way up to Ohio for his tryout, and despite the absolute chaos that surrounded his life in the days before the tryout, Damon again put on a show and impressed the coaches with his speed and punt return ability. In a story straight out of Hollywood, Damon earned himself the contract with the Cleveland Browns he'd been chasing, and had officially gone from homeless to an NFL player in just under 2 weeks. An absolutely ridiculous story, highlighting how far being determined and not giving up can take you. He'd been rejected by JUCO basketball, rejected by JUCO football, rejected by college football, rejected by the Canadian Football League, rejected by the Arena League, but through sheer persistence, Damon was now a member of the Cleveland Browns heading into the 2019 season. So now Damon had his NFL contract. How did he do in the NFL, and where is he now? After chasing his dream for so long and finally getting an NFL contract, Damon wasn't content to give anything less than 100% or 110%, 120%, whatever cliche you want to use, throughout minicamp and training camp with the Browns. He followed up his impressive tryouts with more good performances in practice. The story of his determination and his road to the NFL began to make waves in the media, and it established Damon Sheehy-Guiseppi as one of the biggest underdog stories of a generation, with fans of all teams rooting for him to show out and earn a spot on the final 53-man roster. Damon's work ethic also impressed his teammates on the Browns, with stars such as Odell Beckham Jr. showing love to Damon and respecting the grind he'd put in to make it this far. Finally, the 2019 preseason games arrived and Damon made his preseason debut for the Browns against my team, the consistently awful Washington Redskins. In Damon's first taste of NFL action and on his very first punt return, this happened.
And it is Sheehy-Guiseppi feeling it inside the 15, and he gets one block and he's gone, and he is gone. Taking it the distance for the touchdown is Sheehy-Guiseppi.
You can see from how his teammates absolutely mobbed him that Damon was a very popular player, and his story had resonated not only with the fans, but also his teammates, who respected him for the hustle he'd shown to make it this far. This punt return was an absolutely magic moment, and without a doubt the highlight of the 2019 NFL preseason. Not that that's really saying much, but still, just absolutely magic. However, unfortunately, this electric punt return touchdown would prove to be the peak for Damon. Damon fumbled a punt return in the final game of the preseason and injured his hip, leading the Browns to decide on August 31st, 2019 to cut Damon and end his stint on the team. Against all odds, he'd made it through the tryouts, made it through training camp, and made it through preseason, but at the final hurdle he just didn't quite make the grade. On the bright side, he'd at least earned some cash while being with the team through this summer, but no doubt getting cut by the Browns must have been a very low point for Damon. His run to the NFL had been an absolute fairy tale, but fairy tales don't always have a happy ending. Or do they? Actually, maybe they do. Either way, the ending for Damon was not a happy ending, and he's never gotten another opportunity with a team in the NFL. However, he will always have the video of his punt return to show to girls at the bar or to show to his grandkids later in life. Nobody can ever take it away from him, and to be honest, it's absolutely ludicrous that he even got himself in the position to make that play, considering he never made the cut for Division I college football. I'm sure this will come as no shock to those of you who have actually watched this far, but getting cut by the Browns did not make Damon give up on playing football. Damon had a brief stint in the XFL for the New York Guardians before that league imploded in its first season. Following on from the XFL, Damon has had stints in the Spring League, which is now also dead, and the weird and quirky fan-controlled football league, where the fans choose which offensive plays to run and get to vote on outcomes of instant replay reviews, which sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster in any league that has serious fan support. After leaving the fan-controlled football league, Damon had another brief stint in 2021 with the Ottawa Red Blacks of the Canadian Football League, and then finally his last recorded team, which was this year when he played for the Arkansas Attack in Major League Football. That's a league I've never heard of, and I'd wager significant money it'll be dead within a year, as is the norm for non-NFL leagues, but Damon was still playing football in 2022. Judging by posts on Damon's Instagram, he's still training and catching footballs as recently as September 2022 and hasn't given up on a career in football. And I'd bet if you ask him, he hasn't given up on making it back into the NFL either. Any other player, and I'd say it's impossible, but Damon should have never got into the NFL in the first place, so who am I to say that he can't somehow do it again? It's fair to say that after a crazy run to make it through training camp with the Browns in 2019, that Damon's football career is slowly fading away, and he will probably never make it back onto an NFL roster. But the fact that he even made it as far as he did defies the law of probabilities and highlights how believing in yourself is one of the most powerful forces that you can have in life. If you enjoyed this video, then check out my video linked in the top right on the crazy story of the NFL draft prospect who disappeared and joined a religious cult just months away from signing a multi-million-dollar contract. Or check out some of my other videos on MMA and football. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe for more stories like this one, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.